Educational Communications and this station present Environmental Directions with Nancy Pearlman. On this series, we explore the effects of human influence on the Earth's ecosystems and discuss solutions to environmental problems which affect the quality of life on this planet. Environmental Directions gives you the kind of information you need to help you participate in decisions impacting your community, the nation, and the world. Now, here's your host, Nancy Pearlman.
Hello. We're going to be talking about lithium and other resources used in our modern technology with my guest, Henk Van Alphen. He is Chief Executive Officer with Wealth Minerals. He was formerly the co-founder of International Tower Hill Mines, and he was founder and operator of a number of service-related companies, including a line-cutting operation in northern British Columbia, Canada, culminating in a drilling company, HydroCore. He founded Pacific Rim and has worked extensively in South America with resource companies. He was formerly the Vice President of Corriente Resources and former founder of Cardero Resource Corporation, working in Mexico. Welcome. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Well, thank you very much, Nancy. Thanks for having me on the show.
You are obviously involved with a lot of mining operations, but you're focusing now on lithium, although you've worked with other mining operations dealing with metallurgical coal, iron deposits, zinc. Why lithium, and what is that resource?
There's a pretty obvious reasons why I got into the lithium space. Lithium is going to be used or is used in battery technology, and the battery technology is obviously the new way of powering our world and make it cleaner. I was involved in the coal business, I was involved in the iron ore business, and all those things led me to go to China. And in China, when you go into these big cities in China, and I'm sure it's still the case today, you stick your head out on the wrong day, your hand out in the wrong day, you can't see it anymore. It just disappears in this smog. So as much as we like to save the world from global warming or whatever, but the foremost problem that a country like China has, or many other big cities in the world, is pollution. Very simple. And how do you solve pollution? Well, you have all these belching cars and buses and motorcycles going out there. So here we finally come back to electric vehicles. And electric vehicles were, in the beginning, when vehicles were still made, electric vehicles was actually one of the ways we could have gone. Then oil came in the way, and suddenly we're all relying on oil. So now we're going to this whole new era of changing all that back again to the beginning, where now we have electric vehicles. And lithium is just one of the necessary components of battery technology. So if you want to change the world, you want to make it cleaner, you go for battery technologies, and lithium is one of the main components of that.
Indeed, we are advocating as environmentalists the use of renewable energies, and that includes wind and solar. And the problem is, of course, we can't always get them. We need to store that energy, and batteries is critical. Is lithium the major part of a battery, or can other minerals be used?
The reason why we suddenly have lithium, and remember, the old time, the batteries were all lead. So, lead is unfortunately very heavy. Lithium is the lightest element on the periodic chart. So it's obviously, if you want to have a computer, let's say, you don't want to have a computer running around with lead batteries. So it's really the metal that is going to be used in batteries. Batteries are becoming more and more efficient, so that the price of batteries overall has sort of gone down by about 90%. So when you're talking about having all these forms of power generation like windmills, solar, or even a coal-fired power plant or a hydroelectric plant, it would be really still good to store the power in a battery facility, because all these things produce power at maximum output all the time for maybe 10% of the day when it's actually used, and the rest is just going to waste. Yeah. So there's enormous amounts of energy being wasted all day long by this 100% demand that only happens in a very short time. So if you have a battery facility attached to your power generation, and it doesn't matter if it's renewable or old-fashioned. It suddenly means that you can either sell a lot more power to more people, or you can reduce your power production and still be adequate to supply the power to the people. So batteries have become really, really important. And the reason why they're important now, as I just said, is the price of batteries has come way down. In the olden days, there was just no ability to do that because batteries were so inefficient and so expensive. So now we're in this new technology area of batteries, whereby we suddenly are going to attach batteries to any power generation facility. And now, of course, you have electric cars. This whole thing is driven by electric cars, really, in a way. So now we have these electric cars, and lithium happens to be very light, so very efficient. Batteries are becoming better and better and better. So you just see this whole program going on. But in the end, what it does do is it cleans up the air.
In fact, these statistics are amazing because right now, about 35% of lithium currently goes into batteries, and that's expected to go up in the next 5 years to 75%. So there is obviously a growth in trying to obtain the lithium, and I want to know where we're obtaining it from, because I'm talking to you in Argentina, and you maintain that Chile, Argentina, and Bolivia comprise the lithium, quote, golden triangle. In other words, Chile alone accounts for 35% of the world's lithium production.
So Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile have been blessed with the high Andes plateaus, and you have what you call salars. You actually have them in Nevada as well, where you have water rolling into a salar, which is a lake, and evaporation process, because you're fairly high up, so you have a lot of evaporation processes going on. So what happens is the water runs into the lake with all the contaminants, whatever they are, salt, lithium, and it evaporates. So over the millions and millions of years, these lakes, which are now turning into brines, have become lithium rich. And that's really mainly in Argentina, Bolivia, and Chile. Really, you have some in Tibet, and you have some in Nevada, but here, this is the golden triangle for lithium, and that's just fluke of nature, let's say.
Lithium is very necessary now for the battery industry. How much lithium is in the world, and are we going to have enough? Are we going to totally wipe it out? How much is out there, and how much do we need, and how much are we leaving for future generations?
There's lots of lithium in the world. Technologies will help us finding more of it. So far, lithium was really never a main issue in the world because the prices weren't that high, and the market was supplied with the sources where it came from. So now, suddenly lithium has gone from being not that expensive to actually super expensive. So now, of course, everybody and his dog is looking for lithium. So I would say over the years down the path, we will find lithium in places where we didn't think it was there. I'm a great believer of that because there is a lot of lithium in the Earth's crust. It's just finding it in concentrations where you can make a mine out of it. But I don't think there's going to be a shortage of lithium in the long term. In the short term, there's going to be too much pressure on it fairly. Suddenly we have this whole transition to electric cars, to the new green technology, and it's putting a lot of pressure on a lithium commodity. And there will be a time where it's going to be problematic to fulfill the demand. But eventually it will. If the price of a commodity goes too high, people will look for alternatives. So there will be some battery technology that will come along that will potentially replace lithium in the future. In the short term, remember, lithium batteries has been since the early 90s they started. So its technology is well developed. It's not that easy to replace. You don't go from one technology to the next overnight. It takes a while, but eventually something else will come. And then that will change the world, and we'll do all kinds of other things. But in the short term, it's going to be a shortage. In the long term, there will be changes in the battery technology, and there will be more lithium coming on stream.
You have been involved in spinning out key acquisitions into public entities, have been working with companies, bringing up their market value. How much investment is in this business and how much needs to go into it?
In the lithium business, I would say like tens and tens and tens of billions of dollars. I mean, probably more like hundreds of billions of dollars of investment to satisfy the demand in the short term. Because there's huge amounts of battery companies that are sprouting up left, right, and center, and they're all building batteries for cars or other things. Like, remember, your cell phone, your iPad, that's all lithium battery technology. There's going to be a major investment. Most of it won't be in the salars. I think in the end it will come out of hard rock mining projects, but more so than salars, because salars are kind of a limited resource. You can only pump so much water, and that's actually another thing we didn't discuss, is that today in the salars, they pump the brine, they evaporate it, and then they take out the salts, which includes lithium, which is really not a good process. So the new process will be when you pump the brine, you take the lithium out, and then you just pump the brines back into the salar. So you really don't affect the salar itself. It's going to be the same, other than you're taking a certain amount of lithium out of there. And I don't say, oh, there must be some horrible negative side effect of having lithium out of salars. If there is, I have no idea what that would be. So I don't think that makes any difference if there's lithium in the brine or if there's no lithium in the brine in terms of the environment. But so that's what will happen. It's a limited amount of lithium, really. The world is not going to get supplied by lithium brines.
Is the mining operation becoming more sustainable and ecological?
Yes, all the way. Yeah. This is where the mining industry is going foremost. That's what everybody wants to be, where everybody is going to. Yes.
You've talked about the evaporation method, which was traditional, but yet there is new technology to extract lithium without the evaporation process. You worked with a Russian company, Rosatom. Is that possible now with the war going on in Russia and Ukraine?
Well, you unfortunately have to, or fortunately, whatever the case may be, didn't continue with Rosatom for obvious reasons. But there is a lot of companies, there's at least 30, 40 companies now looking for that new technology to strip lithium out of the brines without evaporation. So that will be a process that will be successful, I would say, within the next year or two at the most.
We know that China has dominated the market in lithium. Afghanistan is a source of many raw earth minerals, but yet the U.S. has pulled out of Afghanistan. Is that country going to develop their resources?
I had an interview with Fox Business News, and the last question that the person that interviewed me on, this is on the Afghanistan situation, and he says to me, he says, one more question, he says, should the United States go back into Afghanistan and secure those resources? And I said to him, I said, absolutely not. I said, they have wasted $2-3 trillion in Afghanistan and they have nothing to show for it. I said they should go to more hospitable environments. Mars comes to mind.
We certainly have a lot to explore. Thank you so very much for bringing us up to date on this valuable resource, lithium. Thank you for being my guest.
Thank you very much, Nancy.
I have been speaking with Henk Van Alphen, who is the Chief Executive Officer with Wealth Minerals. I'm Nancy Perlman. Thank you very much for joining us, and do tune in again next week.
If you would like free information about these environmental issues, go to www.ecoprojects.org or call 310-559-9160. Environmental Directions with your host, Nancy Perlman, is a community affairs program of the nonprofit organization Educational Communications and this station.